end, and I believe we are in the time that in Earth's history, I think we are in the home stretch, just before that. But unfortunately, as this picture shows us, there's probably a storm waiting for us. But like we heard last night, we don't have to worry about that storm because God will be on our side. So let's just open with a word of prayer. Our Heavenly Father, thank you so much for us that we can be here. Thank you for blessing us so abundantly, and thank you for the wonderful area that we can be in. And yes, we know that the storm is coming and there's a lot of things on the horizon, but we know that you are at the end and you are with us through all of this as well. So thank you for that. Please bless this discussion in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. Okay. So I'm sure most of you have read Matthew 24 before. And this whole talk will go about what the signs of the end of the world is. So what did Jesus say to them? Well, what happened? In Matthew 24 verse 3, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. So obviously that will be the main thing that will happen at the end. There will be deception. But he also mentioned quite a few signs that we can look out for. And we're going to run through and see if some of those signs have already come into place. So, if you look at the signs of the times, it can be placed in various categories. And each category needs to come to fruition, and they need to climax simultaneously before the full prophetic picture can be realized. And so these categories are: the physical environmental signs need to reach a universal application. Because you'll hear a lot of people say, yeah, but some of these things have been happening for hundreds of years. So that's why it's important that these things come into fruition simultaneously and in intensity. The moral decay associated with the end time prophecy needs to be universal, not just locally, but universal. The ethnic clashes must be commonplace. The political prophetic picture must come to fruition. The religious prophetic picture must come to fruition, and the legislation associated with buying and selling and the implementation of the mark of the beast needs to be in place. So if all six these are in place and dovetailing, then we can be sure that so we'll going to be quite a few slides. If this is actually happening before our eyes. So one of the things is that you will have false Christs rising, and rumors and all of these, and when you hear he's there, don't go out, all of that happening. So a while back, in 2022, Israeli rabbi says he's already holding meetings with Messiah. So this rabbi, and he's deceased since then, but he proclaimed that he was in meetings with the Messiah. And to understand why religious rabbi, the two Orthodox Jewish community in Israel. So this was not something that was hidden. It was quite out there, and there's still the people that believe that they are in communication with this Messiah. Then there was, you'll hear his name, I can't remember his name, was in Australia, and he believes that he is Jesus. And we'll be looking at this video now. And in the video, there will also be a clip of the Messiah that they believe are presenting himself and coming to the fore in Israel as well. So let's have a listen to this video. Sorry. Okay, it worked just now. Sorry. Can you just check that quickly?
I'm actually Jesus. I remember all of the events of my crucifixion. I understood what was going on. I understood the reason for my death.
And he's collecting disciples. Miller has convinced them that they were with him at his crucifixion.
Yes, this Yanuka Rav Shlomo Yehuda is actually accredited with performing at least 5 or 6 miracles. They say that this guy's level of understanding in the Torah and the Talmud is only seen in rarely throughout generations. So that's what gives him the title, the Yanuka, somebody who's just profoundly proficient in the Torah and the Talmud and all the Jewish laws and texts and beliefs that they have. And through his understanding, he's gaining a lot of prominence in Israel. Many of the high-level Jewish rabbis and Jewish people are just in awe and going to him for their wisdom and knowledge, because he is a unique and special soul that has descended into the world to illuminate the world. Many have experienced salvation through his blessing and in the power of his Torah, and witnessed miracles transcending the. So much sounds like he's talking about God, but that's actually what he's referencing to this Yanuka.
That there are many voices out there that's calling you to Jesus is here, Jesus is there. And then there's many other things as well around that arena. If you take, for instance, a different soapboxes that people are getting on and telling you that this is the believe, otherwise you're lost, and then there's not a lot of scriptural backup for that. All of these things are deception, and we saw that the first thing that Jesus told his disciples is, watch out that you are not deceived. One of the other criteria or signs that Jesus gave his disciples is to tell about wars and rumors of wars. Now, I'm sure that you all know that there's quite a bit of rumors and wars going on. So this was the Ukraine war ushering in a new world order, described as turning point in human history. Since this is already a long time ago, since Russia invaded Ukraine, causing death and destruction across most of the country. And that's still ongoing. We've got the war in Israel and Hamas, and now we've got the whole situation with Iran. And you see, all of these things are really telling us that yes, there's been wars and all of that before, but the intensity and the trajectory that it's going in is pulling the world into a certain direction. Then you've got famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. The war in Ukraine is creating the greatest global, the UN says. Spoken about that since the Ukrainian war, fertilizer has gone up and all the food prices has gone up, and it's almost as if Ukraine was the only country in the world producing these things. Interesting how they can put it into a direction for us. Just give me a second. I have to put the right presentation on quickly, because there was a slide or two missing and I couldn't understand what's happening. Good. Okay, sorry. I wanted to say there was a slide in about the Ukrainian war. Israel-Hamas war latest. This was yesterday. Iran rejects European leaders' call to refrain from any retaliatory attacks. You understand why I struggle with my English pronunciation. It's because I'm Afrikaans, but I have to get over that. I think it's English. Walter helped me a lot with my tenses because I was easing and R-ing where I shouldn't have. So, Iran rejected a call Tuesday by 3 European countries using it to refrain from any retaliatory attacks that would further escalate regional tensions. Iran calls it an excessive request. So this is really brewing. We don't know where it's going to go, but the signs we can see are being fulfilled. Okay, so then the global food crisis, conflict, economic shocks, climate extremes that will always be in the fray. We'll get to that a little bit later. And soaring fertilizer prices are combining to create a food crisis of unprecedented proportions. As many as 309 million people are facing chronic hunger in 71 countries. Now that one differs. Sometimes it's 109 countries. Last year they were setting it. So definitely pestilences and famines are escalating. It's unquestionable. Earthquake damage in Turkey said to exceed 100 billion. That was last year. More than 52,000 people were killed in southern Turkey and northeast Syria. Since then, I'm sure you also saw that there have been quite a few other earthquakes, including the ones, or two of them, recently, a few days ago in Los Angeles. So Los Angeles reacts to a 4.4 magnitude earthquake, second one to hit California in a week. The epicenter of today's quake was located in Highland Park near Pasadena. So all of these things are creeping up and becoming more intensified. Well, I haven't asked what we are allowed to eat here at the camp meeting, but if all else fails, we can at least go to some insects. You know, the EU has approved 2 of the sorts of insects that are okay for human consumption. Now, listen to this excellent piece of diet for yourself. The maggot-like larvae of lesser mealworms. a type of shiny black beetle, and house crickets will become the third and fourth insects that can be sold as food for people in the European Union. And now you have to start reading labels. If you go to the shop, you can read the labels and go and find out if one of these products is not hidden away under a certain code there, because there's been quite a few crickets and well, if you think that's a tasty morsel, you can go ahead. More likely role for insect protein could be feeding it to livestock. So, okay, unfortunately, if you find it's on the label on the product you want to purchase and you put it away, be careful if you want to eat some livestock, because they can be fed to that. So it's not a vegan cow anymore. It's not being fed grass only. And then we get to the portion that's, are you ready for climate lockdowns? It's only a matter of time. So this is quite old. It's from 2021. So I just wanted to see if it's still relevant. And there was one from this year. Will climate lockdowns become a reality? It says the specter of climate lockdowns has emerged as a new measure against extreme heat. Interesting that we saw that in England, they had, what was the word? It was scorching hot, of 30 degrees and Celsius. And just to put that into perspective, in South Africa, it's middle of winter, and where we stay, it was 33 degrees Celsius. So I don't know. In 1990, I went to England, and if I remember correctly, it was 35 degrees then. But every year they tell you it's the hottest it's ever been. But in any case, in parts of Asia, populations are already experiencing the harsh realities of climate-induced restrictions. The term climate lockdowns, though not officially recognized, is being increasingly used to describe measures taken to protect people from severe heat waves. And that is where there will definitely be more measures like that coming. We will see that, even in your country. Just an interesting fact. This is a graph of the mid-trophic, the climate models. So the lines that go up are climate models that they work on, that is worked out, and the blue dots and that line at the bottom are the physical observations. So just by that, going back to the verse that we've read, be careful lest you are deceived. So the whole world is running ahead with the models. And you can see there, the average of 102 models shows you what trajectory. Crazy where it's supposed to be. And the bottom is where it actually is. That just shows you that you have to be very careful of how you get fed through the media. So the UN is uniting with the World Health Organization. I don't know if anybody has noticed that before. And here's just a little video to show us
I have to say,
about Uncle Klaus Schwab.
Like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the world economic forum. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau.
That noise is on their video.
Who knows that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are for our actually young global leaders of the world. Right?
That's true in Argentina. Wow. Yeah. Sorry. That's true in Argentina as well.
It's true in Argentina, and it's true in France now. I mean, with the president, with the young global leader, but what is important for me?
Okay, so I don't know if you heard quite clearly. I just quickly tell you there. So I don't know if who of you know about the World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab used to be the president of that. I think he's retired recently. But most of the leaders of the world have been trained in their global young leaders of the World Economic Forum, like Trudeau, and he even mentioned Putin, but then there was a big backlash because they said, no, Putin wasn't there. But that was after the war. Before the war, probably they would have said, oh, he was. So that just shows you everything is there. There's a lot of deception. We don't know. So this is just Trump that I think it was in, I can't remember which year, but this was when he attended the World Economic Forum, and this is what he had to say about Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum.
Well, we're here meeting with world leaders, the biggest, most important people in the world, and we're bringing back tremendous business in the United States, and they're all here to see. I'll be making a speech, and then we'll be leaving shortly. We look forward to being here. Klaus has done a fantastic job. And again, we're meeting with the biggest companies in the world, the biggest businesses in the world, and world leaders, all for the benefit of the United States. We look forward to the meetings.
Why not have witnesses?
Believer in the environment. Thank you.
Okay, so we've got a lot of different voices and then a lot of support, but maybe we must keep our focus where it should be, and that's on Jesus. And we must be observers, because if we get sucked into one of these things, we will be caught up in it. So the global pandemic treaty to be concluded by 2025, the World Health Organization says. And this was also quite recent, and I don't know if you know about this treaty. 194 countries want to sign. That says the member states have been negotiating for 2 years on an agreement that could increase collaboration before and during pandemics after the acknowledged failures during COVID-19. So countries did, however, reach a parallel legally binding health rules known as the International Health Regulations, which includes a new category of pandemic emergency for the most significant and globally threatening health crisis. So what this basically does, they will decide on how your country should handle a pandemic or any health crisis for that matter. And we've shown before that they even proclaim that the climate emergency is a health crisis. So they can lock you down if they believe that the climate, it's going to be too hot. So for the next 3 weeks, we're going to have a heat wave, full lockdown for your country, something like that. We don't know, but it's definitely something to look out for. The moral decay associated with end-time prophecy needs to be universal. Okay, so is moral decay something that is happening around us? Is there anybody that has not heard of the opening ceremony of the Olympics? So that we can leave it there. That's enough said on the moral decay. But there were some interesting things here a while back. California law would fine department stores $1,000 for separating toys by gender. Sorry. Then it justifies and excuses, that is the bill that they passed, and you know all about this, that intent to kill a baby. The California State Assembly passes amended infanticide bill. Fight not over. The California State Assembly on Tuesday passed what pro-life advocates have called a radical measure that they've dubbed the infanticide bill. As CBN News reporter, I'm just going to skip down there to the bottom. the amended language, prenatal death due to causes that occurred in utero does nothing to change the bill's protection for anyone who kills a baby born alive during the first 28 days of life. And you've heard there's a lot of accusations going around, but I think the vice president candidate for the Democrats have also passed a few very peculiar bills in his state on that. So moral decay is definitely on the increase. Ethnic clashes must be commonplace. Well, a few years ago, 5 months, BLM protesters trashed America's cities after the election. They may only get worse. Well, that might be a precursor for what's happening in this election. We don't know, but definitely ethnic clashes are rising. Here it says ethnic conflict, a form of conflict in which the objectives of at least one party are defined in ethnic terms. Well, we've got a lot of ethnic clashes in our country as well, not only between black and white, but we've also got a lot of immigrants into our country, the same as here, and then the local people they feel that they're stealing their jobs, and then you've got what they've called xenophobic attacks on each other. So definitely it's on the increase, just to pass through all of this. The political prophetic picture must come to fruition. Revelation 17 verse 1, and there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of a fornication. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. All right, so now, for those who don't know, can we just identify who the beast power is? Who? The papacy. Papal Rome is the beast power. If you don't know about that, then please, there's a lot of people here we can ask. We can do a whole Bible study on why the beast power, all the reformers, all those ones that Professor Walter was showing last night, they all believe the same, that the beast power of Revelation is the papacy. So what will happen then? There will be an image to the beast. Who is that? No, the image to the beast. The beast power is the America. And it will be through the United States of America. So, and I saw his wounded, got its deadly, seemingly deadly wound, and then it would be healed. When did the healing? 1929, when Mussolini gave back the power to the Pope. And then what will happen? All the world wondered after this beast. So, do we see this happening? We can have hundreds of pictures on here about every single president that has to go and meet. And it's not me saying so. It's not anybody. It's the Bible that tells us and defines us who the beast is. So when these things happen, don't say Martin said that the Pope is the Antichrist. I think you can read the Bible for yourself. So this is all the political sphere of people that meets with and pays homage. Even if you're Protestant, atheist, does not matter. You will go there. You will have the merchants of the world. CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, and so on. And then you can get all MasterCard and all these people. So Elon Musk breaks Twitter's silence to post photo of himself and his 4 sons with Pope Francis. And right after he was there, he did a few changes on Twitter and made it X and all sorts of wonderful things. So, do you think that the world is wandering after the beast already? Then the religion must come to fruition. All the world that include the religious world. Okay, so we've got the Kenneth Copeland, Rick Warren, the Lutheran World Federation, and like I said, we can just fill it. Everybody that goes to that portion. There is a universal plan that people have against them. Happens here.
Build back better.
To build back better or whatever. And build back better.
To build back better.
Build back from this global pandemic.
Build back better.
Build back better.
Building back better.
To build back better.
Build it back better.
And build it back better. Build back better.
Build back better.
It's about building this country back better.
Build back better. Building back better.
Build back better.
Some would say to build back better. We would say to really have a great reset.
Build back better.
Okay, to have a great reset. Do you think that happened? That for sure. Okay, so do you think there's an agenda going on? Does it look like it? This is something interesting of the, I hope this the sound is good. Just can listen.
2-year-old Father Luigi Battazzi is the last known survivor of a secret pact that experts say may have influenced Pope Francis. Signed 50 years ago at the time of Vatican II by Catholic bishops in this underground church in Rome. Called the Pact of the Catacombs, it vowed to create a poor church for the poor. The same church Pope Francis says he wants today.
And we can say, for example, that they decide to refuse all the insignia.
The cross, the rings.
Yeah.
This included, obviously, doing away with the papal tiara or the crown, the symbol of the Pope's ruling authority, which had been there for 1,000 years. They got rid of the idea of crowning the Pope. He no longer was a monarch. He was more like a president, which is exactly where they wanted it. So in 1964, Pope Paul VI renounces that crown, and the popes have never been crowned since. And after his mass, we're talking about Francis now, after his massive inauguration in 2013, he said that he wanted a poor church for the poor people. Quote, "We will do our utmost so that those responsible for our government and for our public services make and put into practice laws, structures, and social institutions required by justice and charity, equality in the harmonic and holistic development of all men and women, and by this means bring about the advent of another and new social order," end quote. Also known as the New World Order. Bishop Helder Camara, or Camara, to anglicize it, the self-identified socialist Archbishop from Brazil, whom Francis would declare a servant of God in 2015. He is the role model of one Jorge Mario Bergoglio. It was Archbishop Camara who on November 16th, 1965, led 42 powerful council fathers, bishops, down into the catacombs to sign the Catacombs Pact. There's a bit more on that.
They also vowed to put pressure on international organizations to help change the economic structures which they said exploit the poor. These are all points that are remarkably similar to Pope Francis's agenda for the church today.
He's got one more point on his resume. He was a major influence on a young Klaus Schwab.
I give you one example which for me was probably a crucial moment in my life. I traveled for the first time to Brazil. I met a priest who was known at that time as the priest of the poor people, Elder Camara. And he brought me to the favela was so shocked. And I said, I have to invite this bishop to Davos to tell the people what poverty is. So I invited him to the annual meeting in Davos. But then when I came back in Switzerland, I found out that actually he was forbidden at that time to speak in Switzerland because he was considered to be a communist. And I said, this is for me a test. But then I noticed that many companies told me, if you invite this person who is so much against business, we will not come to Davos anymore. And that's where I had to stand to my values, even at the risk that I would have to give up the World Economic Forum. Wow. But it went very well. I have to say, the audience in Davos listened to him.
It's the same revolution. It's the same players, in fact. In a catacomb beneath the streets of Rome at the close of the Second Vatican Council in 1965. It just took a while to get to the point politically where it is now. But it's the same movement.
Okay, so the problem is this, and then we think, but it has to be sorted out. Is it going to be sorted out by an earthly power? But is it going to seem that it's going to be sorted out? So that is where the deception that we read is going to come in. Because a lot of people, like we saw all the different denominations that still wander after the beast, will want this to be sorted out. So when this pendulum starts to swing towards the morality again, everybody will say, excellent, this is what we've been needing. And the push that we saw with the Olympics and what's happening and we'll talk about that a little bit later, maybe tomorrow, and the possible, or the assassination attempt. It's really helping this pendulum to swing towards fulfillment of prophecy. And you've seen this, and this is the pendulum swing, that the separation of church and state will be brought together. This is the I believe he's still the mayor of New York, Adams, and he's discussing faith, dismisses the idea of separating church and state. So he's a Democratic mayor, liberal, and he also says, no, church and state can be together. And it was the annual interfaith breakfast hosted on Tuesday by Mayor Eric Adams began normally enough. A choir sang a rousing rendition of My Country, 'Tis of Thee. A rabbi spoke, so did Buddhist and Muslim leaders, and then things started to get surreal. The mayor's closest aide, Ingrid Lewis-Martin, took the stage to declare that the Adams administration doesn't believe in the separation of church and state, characterizing the mayor of New York City as definitely one of the chosen, as she introduced him. And then he said, don't tell me about no separation of church and state. State is the body, church is the heart. You take the heart out of the body dies. So definitely there's no separate. That's the one side. Now you've got the other side. We've got the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and he's got the following to say. The separation of church and state is a misnomer. Johnson said in an interview on CNN, people misunderstand it, he continued. That was in a letter that Jefferson wrote. It's not in the Constitution. And what he was explaining is they did not want the government to encroach upon the church. Not that they didn't want principles of faith to have influence on our public life. It's exactly the opposite. The question came after the host called so he is very vocal about there shouldn't be any divide or separation of church and state. So what do we know about, what does prophecy say? Will church and state be coming together again? Why? Because we have to have enforced legislation, religious legislation, don't we? Now, there will always be, if we stick to what we've got, the truth, as we should find it like we saw last night. And if you stick to that truth, are you going to be popular? Are you going to... So, obviously, you're not going to be in this country or anywhere in the world. Oh, I can skip this one. Then, the legislation is... Well, I wonder if I'm... Yeah, let me play that one. Maybe you haven't seen it. You can just watch this one quickly.
To be different. And that person can make your life miserable. It's happening all across the country. Whether it's men blowing up the women's bathroom against your daughter, or the special language you're forced to use around people who still live with strangers with strange hair and strange habits get to dictate rules for the rest of us. This whole America thing, we knew the rules, everybody respected each other, and if someone was a little out there, we'd let them who were a little out there say we're making them uncomfortable and demanding we bow down. The very existence of normal people make alternatives feel uncomfortable. The fact that we live and breathe the same air is a microaggression. If you're a straight Christian, white male, who plays sports and makes a good living, the alternatives feel unsafe. You're oppressing them by being you. So you have to change for them.
Nobody needs you to advocate for how difficult it is to use gender-neutral pronouns. These are not my preferred pronouns. These are my pronouns. You will use them, or you will not refer to me at all.
No one says anything, and the alternatives annoy you into submission. They don't want acceptance. They want you to submit to them. And I'm not playing this game anymore. And I'm a nice one. I'm done with being stupid.
So what's the problem with that? I bet you that most of us here felt the same way that he did. But the problem is that's not the right way to feel about it. Because we should not get sucked into this. Because that will be the push to swing the pendulum, to get you to go with them. And then what you mentioned in the beginning, there's always this one that stands out. That should be us. So we're not going to be sucked into, it will pull on your heartstrings, these things. Because the moral decay is there. But we're going to be caught in the deception. The legislation associated with buying and selling and the implementation of the mark of the beast need to be in place. Okay. Just wanted to make sure I've got till 20:30 or 20 past or what? Okay. We're almost finished. Okay.
What underpins a world order is always the financial system. And what we're seeing in the world today, I think, is we're on the brink of a dramatic change where we are about to, and I'll say this boldly, we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. And the new one, the new accounting, is what we call blockchain. It means having an almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy, which will give us far greater clarity over what's going on. It also raises huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between states and citizens. In my opinion, we're going to need a digital constitution of human rights if we're going to have digital money. But also, this new money will be sovereign in nature. Most people think that digital money is crypto and private.
Okay, so most think that digital money is crypto and private, so obviously that's exactly the opposite of what digital money will be. But if they want to, if stop you from buying anything right now? Can they do that? Do they already have the power? You've got everything. If they push a button and you don't have access to your money in any case. So it's not something to get riled up over and to start to try and do something about it. This will happen. It's just to show that we are on the way to where the implementation or the readiness to implement the no buy, no sell is definitely on the cards. There's not even a question about it. This video I'm not going to show. This is just a video, and you've probably seen it before, with all the different tools that they've got implemented already in businesses and facial recognition. I mean, when we entered the US, we didn't even have to show our passports. It's just facial recognition these days. I think, yeah, biometrics and facial recognition. That's it. So we know all these things. We should not be worried about it. All right. Revelation 18, verse 23. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and the bride shall be heard no more at all. Great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries we all. In her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. And that sorceries there is pharmakeia. Is there a right arm of the gospel that has to go with the third angel's message? We will see a time coming where all earthly support will be cut off. And that's why places like this and the planning of the sanitarium that they've got here and looking after ourselves, providing, that's why you've got this wonderful project going and the training that we can go and do and all of that, because we have to get ready for a place, a time when all support will be cut off. And just to look at it, we've seen, this was Pope Francis's Laudato Si letter that said, on Sunday, our participation in the Eucharist has special importance. Sunday, like the Jewish Sabbath, is meant to be a day which heals our relationships with God. We've seen last night that there were people that saw this in the 1500s already, and when they were preaching it, they got either killed or disfellowshipped or exiled or whatever, and we will get this again. But this is already here. So this is the sixth one that we have discussing of all the things that has to get into place. And we mentioned climate lockdowns. It will probably be driven by a climate Sunday, that they will say it defaults to Sunday. We have to keep it. You all know Project 2025. You've probably heard of it. That is the manifesto, if you can call it that the Republican Party wants to be implemented immediately when the new Republican president is sworn in. And that also is a 900-odd page document in, I think, around page 809. I can't even remember. There's a whole section on Sunday that will have to be put in as a day of rest and a day of worship again. There is also space in there for other days like Friday and Sabbath, but it says it will default to Sunday. So we were looking earlier just at the headline, and it says that the implementation of the mark of the beast, everything has to be in order for that. Can I ask, what is the mark of the beast? Sunday worship, Sunday legislation. Is it already a test? It's not yet. So you don't receive the mark of the beast yet until it's legislated. But is everything in place for it to be legislated? Okay. And that, when all of these things happen, begin to pass, then look up and lift your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. Okay, let's close with a word of prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we can see that the things are starting to fall into place, and we can hear the rumble. So can you please bless us with the Holy Spirit that we can discern these things and not be deceived? We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.